All right, welcome to another session of the conversation on City Right Television, where we tell you the story the African way. And on today's episode, we'll be meeting an interesting personality who has actually made an impact in society, not just within a specific set of environments, but globally recognized. Stay with us after the break. I'm glad you're still here with us. My name is Michi, and this is City by Television. And like I told you, after the break, we're going to meet an interesting personality. And I'd rather he introduce himself by himself. He's a big name when it comes to creating memories. He's a big name when it comes to when people say we want to go back to the root. I think this is actually the pure definition of going back to the root. We are talking about the founder of Center for Memories. You're welcome, sir.
My pleasure. I like to start with I'm not the founder of the Center for Memories.
Oh, my bad, my bad.
Yeah, so I find it very difficult to introduce myself anytime I'm asked to, but my name is Mazi Iheanyi Igboko, and I work as the executive director of the Center for Memories. And just like the name, Center for Memories, in Chetandi, it is a place where we try as much as we can to document, to preserve, to promote the history, culture, identity, excellence, tradition of Ndi. In fact, everything that concerns
I warned you. I said, I told you that when it comes to keeping memories, I've not even started. I think I listed only memories. I didn't actually tell them the number of what I think is endless. All right, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Now, the reason a lot of people here Center for Memories, and just like people like us and some other people out there, we believe you happen to be the founder of Center for Memories. But I'm glad you just cleared air that you are executive director of Center for Memories. Now, what is the vision behind Center for Memories?
I want to provide another context before I move into the vision. You know, it's often said that Nandi but I like to disagree, because for the fact that the Center for Memories is established, it means that Ndibo because the beginning of what we now have and know as a center, it's a place, it's a situation where people from different, Igbo home states came together and started thinking about homeland. Where can we, within Ali Igbo, find a place where our children can come back and learn how to speak Asụsụ Igbo? Where in Ali Igbo can we go to and our children can make meanings out of the multiple philosophies that we have across Ali Igbo? Where can we come to in Ali Igbo and our children will make sense of all of the effigies, all of the carved woods, all of the objects that we have within Ali Igbo? How does all of this connect, to contemporary or solve contemporary issues? So these and more were the reasons why the Center
for Memory. So more like intellectual akuluno.
I mean, if you say it that way, people come in to the center and we ask you a question, for instance, can you mention or can you outline, can you identify your fourth, fifth generation? And you know that there's already a gap.
Yes.
So sometimes people come to the center and we ask them, why do we not receive things, with the left hand? People do not know why.
Yes.
Right? And it begins, it begs a lot of questions because, we would say, if you don't know where the rain started to beat you, you wouldn't know where it ends. People would say, how important is what you're doing at the center? And we respond always that identity is foundational to development. You need to know who you are before you can make something out of it. You need to know where you're coming from before you can project where
Where you
you
want to
will
be.
head to. If you look at the principle of the Center for Memories, we stand on a tripod, Makunya, Ta,
That, the
Nechi. While we protect the past, we document today and project
protect
tomorrow,
tomorrow.
right? So our work is, our work is so fundamental to a lot of things. We help to find answers to the missing puzzles within the Igbo consciousness. Within the Igbo society, we try to always ensure that we find meaning, because it is only when the people of today find
Finds meaning.
meaning in the practices, in the
Past.
culture, they will begin to see the importance of the past and begin to reimagine a future
So,
for Ndi Igbo. So, and if you look at the crop of the people who work at the center, you largely see a lot of young people. It doesn't mean that we don't have
surprisingly,
old people.
because I've been there, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, some of the refugees, the Ekwensu, the Kenga, the this, and I begin to ask myself, do you actually understand what you guys are doing there? Because you may not really see, except people will say, when you say Ekwensu, see the Kenga, the this and that. But I saw the explanations on that. And I think it helps to sharpen the mindset of an average progressive minded person. So, um, do you see our children embracing? Because I saw a lot of young ones, yes, I know. But do you also believe the parents are actually beginning to bring back that memories, teaching their children some of those forgotten things about our culture? But before you go there, why don't we receive things with the left hand?
I know you caught in that. I see the trap for you. So basically, it's actually rooted in the philosophy of the Kenga, Ikenjaga, and that's why in the Igbo society we refer to the right hand as the Aki Ikenga,
Kenga.
because it is the hand with which you hold your Ikenga, and the Ikenga is very important to the average Igbo person, Igbo man, right? Because Ikenga is that totem for excellence. Ikenga is that totem for achievement, right? And when you dissect the Ikenga, one of the most prominent things you get to see are the two horns, the ram's horn, right? Ebule, right? And if you look at the Igbo consciousness, there are a lot of metaphors and proverbs, whipped around Ebule.
Yes,
First and foremost, the ebule is the only beast that does not let out a wild cry upon attack. Ndị Igbo ji wee na-ekwu na ebule na-erigbu ude. You understand that? So in terms of application, it means that when things happen to us as Ndi Igbo, we shouldn't let out a wild cry. I wouldn't say we don't, because now we shout the most, even when the things do not affect us.
But I think that's the gap we are trying to.
Yeah, we need to understand, because it is only a foolish person that tells another person what they will do to them, even when they don't have the capacity to do those things. Like an ambassador, oru mgbe a ga-agba ozugbo nwaanyị dị ime. Ya mere mgbe nwaanyị dị ime nwụzi abịasị na mbe bụ egbu nwaanyị dị ime. But this is the situation of Ndi Igbo today. We shout when we shouldn't even shout, right? So that's the first one. The second one is Ebunelazo Obiogo, which means that we retreat to re-strategize. So nowadays, strategy, planning, thinking is not part of the Igbo society. What makes the Igbo society of the past what it were before was the level of thinking, was the level of ideology that built that society. People had to think. People feel that ancestors were fools or ignorant, but coming to the center, I realized the profundity of their wisdom. I see what we call native intelligence. I see the indigenous knowledge system carved into everything you see
in my dialect
you.
we call it Akuji.
Akuji.
Like local native intelligence.
Yeah.
I said the passing sense is not passing sense.
Definitely.
So
definitely,
if you don't know the native intelligence, it's difficult for you to.
It's very difficult. So when you see everything around the Kenga, you understand why excellence matters a lot in the Igbo pre-colonial society. I don't know if it's still the same now because a lot of water has actually gone down under the bridge. So excellence was a thing, and that's why people ventured afar to make name, because the name you make is actually what built your community before you yourself. Today, people go and make names for themselves before. That's why we even say Akuruno, Amaro, because you have to go venture afar to make a name. That's anya ka eji ekwu na otu aka ndị ọma ọbịa si eme, otu aka ndị Nkanu si eme, otu aka ndị amara ebe isi, amara the likely character that will accompany your personality.
That's
why people did a lot of things to secure the reputation of their place.
Because of Eziafa. Now, before you continue, I'm glad you're talking about the significance and the characteristics of Ikenga. Ordinarily, average youth, especially Gen Z, might consider it is a deity, kind of. Now that you mentioned to us, that sounds like an ancient beast that jumped out from somewhere, and then the man above us, they now start saying. So Ikenga is not actually a deity or that you worship.
Okay, so I like to demystify the concept of deity, right? So sometimes people don't. They are what we use. In fact, when we say ritual, people don't know we are talking about a process. So when we say initiation, people don't know we are talking about admission. So these are semantics. But let me go back to deity. The Igbo society is one where, not just the Igbo society, it's an African thing, right? So when somebody becomes, too good in something, too
perfect in something.
Perfect. You reach the God level. They deify you. All of us, I think, must have experienced when Pope John Paul II was the Pope.
Sadly.
It's not is a saint.
Yes,
that's what deification means. He has been deified. Now people can now pray through Pope St. John Paul. And the Igbo society is built in such a way where, like, every good thing that you can do, every skill you have, it doesn't come from you, it comes from God. And so when you do it and become so good in it, people begin to see you as an instrument through which they can now connect to the God, right? And that's why they deify. Most of the deities we have actually, when I went to, we are working in Ledger, for instance, during our work, we realized that Adada, was one of the best female smelters. So she got to that level that people now deified, and she became an important element within that entire zone.
In fact, to the extent that people are going to demand for that as a
state. But I bet that most of the people who demand for that do not even know.
I don't even know about that.
She's a goddess, Yeah. So that is how it has always been, in our society until things change. Things have actually, changed. So when it comes to deities, it's people actually existed. Today we celebrate Thor. Celebrate all of those other people's gods.
Yes.
Because they are gods in their mythology. And then you come down to us, and then Ekwensu, somebody now tells you that Ekwensu is a devil. And then you begin to wonder, because in Igbo society, we do not, when you say devil, we don't understand.
We don't.
Yeah, because it's the conception of another person. And that person comes in and tries to imagine your reality with their own reality, and then creates that for you.
But I think that one happened to be because of the mistranslation when it was translating the devil, and
it wasn't mistranslation, because what is the translation of Jesus in Igbo?
I don't think it's just Jesus.
Jesus is where is Jesus in our culture? But you have Ekwensu in our culture because it's evil. It's easier to find it, but you find the good one. You will not name the good spirit, say Amadioha, and then the evil one, Ekwensu. So So if we can't find that good one within our culture, people are trying to tell you that your culture is evil and bad, and that they are savior. They will save you.
But whose error is that? Because now that we have come of age, how many English literary work has been translated to Igbo language for easy understanding. I just recall, I think, about one Mazi that translated physics to Igbo language. Now, all this blame of the Western, of the invasion, of whatever it is, are we still on that blame in this same century?
Well, I wouldn't be part of those who blame. While I commend the work of Mazi Ogbonnia, I still do not think it's a way out, right? Why do I say so? I say so because you still translate physics in the way and manner the people who gave you physics, brought it. We've not looked at the concept of our own evolution, of our own society, to see what is we deal with metaphysical a lot in our society. Our society is a metaphysical one, and we've not really tried to dissect that concept so that people will make sense out of what they see within their society, so that you don't begin to think that somebody is doing a voodoo. People understand how to make a rain stop or how to make rain start. People think it's juju,
No.
but somebody is delving into the realms of the metaphysical to be able to do that. We've not even actually tried to, develop that concept so that people will understand that this is what it is. That is what I see as growth or progress, because you are doing it according to your own pattern, not according to another person's pattern.
So you are saying that instead of always believing everything, we should look inwards and develop our own concept.
We do not invest in R&Ds. I'll give you an example, right? My grandmother, I lived with her, and during one of those days we go to the farm, we used to see utobo. I don't know what they even call it. I don't care what they call it in English.
Utobo,
I don't.
Is it a baboon?
I don't bother what they call it in English. But yeah, utobo is what it is for me. So, and she told me one very important thing, that we should watch out for where the physics of the utobo is, so that we can, open it up. Whatever fruit, whatever things we see from the droppings, that we should be able to plant it. That thing is eatable. So that was how they dealt with some of the things all of us enjoy today and say, oh, this is food, this is good. But it was their own system. For our generation, I always say that this guy who wrote The Wretched of the Earth, Franz Fanon, he said something that keeps driving me today. He said that each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover what his mission is. I'm trying to use this word, but what he was trying to say in essence is, when you discover what your mission is, you either fulfill it or betray it. These are his words. And for our generation, they have dealt with it at the level where they were. For our generation to continue that research and development, or to continue that indigenous knowledge system that they've created, we should have, we have not been exposed to contemporary, documentation systems or writing systems. It should have been our preoccupation, to further develop that. And for me, I think it underscores the work of the Center for Memories.
That's exactly what I'm trying to come at, because I realize that if because if the Center for Memories could start documenting some of these what we term mysteries, I think it will actually save a whole lot for the next generation. I remember that a particular place in Nsukka, I think Ekwebe or so, according to their own belief, they have crops, cash crops and all that. That if you begin to say, oh, every day, yam, every day, start, disrespecting the crop, that if you plant it, it will not grow again. I still haven't understood what that meant. So, but these are the things. There must be stories behind all this. Then coming back to the Ekwensu part of it. So what you are saying is that Ekwensu is actually is sold wrongly to Africans in terms of the devil. So what is it then, if it's not the devil that we believe it to be?
Ekwensu is actually the unfortunate one, right? Because when they came, they saw a lot of deities, and when they look at functionality, they felt, oh, in their own mythology, the devil, the character that fits the devil in their mythology is actually the Ekwensu. Ekwensu was unfortunate because it could have been Amadioha. It could have been, because in the Igbo society, each deity has their roles. And that's why most times when you watch Nollywood, you see a lot of misconception.
Exactly.
So
They sold
from
some
the
of this.
dibia to the chief priest is one person, which is never ideal in any Igbo society. The dibia is different from the chief priest.
And we have different DBS.
We have different dibia.
We have different
And you
DBS.
need to even understand what the dibia means. In Igbo, words are very important. D is master. D is highest level of accomplishment. And that's why you have the dibia, dimba, diochi, diji. So you can see the mastery across different elements of the society. And when you come to dibia, it's a fusion of two words, di and ebia. Master of wisdom and knowledge.
Okay.
So it means it's just like a professor. When you see a professor, you think that a professor knows everything. It's not true. Even see a professor of microbiology, you know that professor is not a professor of general microbiology. He is rooted in a particular aspect of microbiology, clinical microbiology. So how then do you see a dibia? You expect the dibia to have the knowledge of everything.
So be both the herbalist, both the chief priest, both the seer.
Dibia afa dị iche. Dibia mgbọrọgwụ na mkpa akwụkwọ dị iche. So you have dibia for every level of solutions within the society. Ọ bụ ihe ga na-eme ịghọta asị jee kọnsọtụ jee jụọ ese onye nke eje ebe afọ bikos amago na ihe na-eme onye a bụ arụ ma ihe na-aya ya. I don't know if you understand. And then when you come to the chief priests and the priestesses, they are dedicated to a particular deity.
Yes.
So if you're in Agala, or not ikuku.
In my while I was growing up, we had different. We have the communal chief priest who goes to a sacred land to perform, I think, on Nkwo market day or something. Then there's other ones. I said, now, only nka na go nka. Just like we have that tama, this one na go, this one, But like I said, I'm glad that the lot of misconceptions are being corrected. Now, do you think with what you have been doing so far, there is a significant impact already in the society?
Definitely. One of the major things I would like to say is that we are contributing to the global body of knowledge, right? Because in all of this, if it doesn't result to education and awareness, you are not getting anything done. So we see the number of people who visit the center every now and then. We see the number of people who come from outside of Nigeria just to come and see the center. In fact, from this May to July, we have a lot of PhD students coming from Ivy League universities around the world, Princeton, Harvard, Cambridge, on a research mission to the center. And beyond that, in our outputs, we found a way to put out our exhibitions. Most of the exhibitions we do are linked with one institution or the other. So we did a couple of exhibitions with Swartz University of London, with Cambridge in the UK, with University of Nigeria and Soka. So so that people can refer to those works. They can cite it in their research, they can cite it in the academic work, because that's the only way those knowledge system can be utilized, sustained, so that tomorrow our own children will not bother about going to find the meaning of this or why we do the other thing or that. So that is one of the relevance of the work we do. Second part of the thing is looking at how we often imagine the looks on the faces of people who walk into the center, and how it lightens up, because one of the key things we do is storytelling. So everybody who works at the center is building a skill on storytelling, because you have to make it make sense. We don't just point and say this is what it is, and then we have to build a story around it so that you understand. There are fictions.
Yes, I think the first time I visited the center, I met with one of the workers there. We were able to communicate, because some of the stories there are already part of the things I was already aware of. So we just clicked. It was just flowing. But what that now? Maybe now they have a lesser work to do, because I think we have an issue of overzealousness in religion, extremism, in the sense that everything that is black is the bad one. Just like we have the white lie and we have the lies. We have the black male and we have the black sheep. So it means that the black ones, so everything that is imported seems to be better than what we already have in the country. So when you start telling somebody that Ekwensu is not the one you have to shout Holy Ghost fire on, or Kabash and all that, okay, one kind. Now this is good.
Ekwensu should actually be the patron saint of negotiators.
No gas in born believer. And you need serious deliverance.
Yeah.
So just like we have Greek mythology, we have different deities for different gods for different things. Just like we have the Zeus at the head and all that. So, which function does Ekwensu actually perform in the Igbo mythology?
I was saying that the Ekwensu should actually be the patron saint of negotiators, right? Because Ekwensu is Gigo, what we call in computer, Gigo, garbage in, garbage out. So, you are venturing into a war, for instance, and you think that your opponents have stronger firepower than you, and then you go to the Ekwensu and say, "Oh, I'm about to go into this war. I'm actually fighting to save my society or my land or my people, but these people do have stronger firepower than me. I want you to come and do this fight with me, but you're going to make Ekwensu promises. Yeah. So this is what I will give you in return. If Ekwensu, you cannot control Ekwensu on how Ekwensu decides to execute his yeah. Shebi, you want to win these people. Ekwensu can decide to be chopping off their heads. I mean, you cannot control Ekwensu on that way. But again, Ekwensu can rebound if you don't fulfill the promises you made to Ekwensu.
Thank you. I remember an old man telling me this. He explained this concept in 2008, thereabouts, then in Lagos. It was one of the gate men that he told me, "Na Ekwensu, Ekwensu, Ekwensu." That this thing people are calling this is not. No, na mmadụ na ihe na bụ Ekwensu bụ na the equal. The problem is here. So he was just trying to, but I'm beginning to get a clearer picture.
If you read the works of Damian Ugutikiri Opata, Prof, you'd get, he has a book on Ekwensu actually. And that book is a work of deep research. That book will reveal to you a lot of things you don't even know about Ekwensu. Because it will get you to think. There are communities known as Umu Ekwensu. If Ekwensu was that bad, why would a community decide to name Ekwensu after themselves? Or in some places where something magnificent will happen, they will say Ekwensu me, Ekwensu me. So if it was that bad, why would they, these are questions you should ask, because one of the principles in this cultural sector is that if you want to know about the people, know about the folklore. Just search their folklore.
Yes.
Search the proverbs they have around them. Search the patterns that they have within their society. Because if they don't have it, it is not a thing. But if they have it, you need to find what circumstances does this, take place, manifest, or get used. So these are some of the things and that's why I feel like our present generation, it was part of the conversation that kept me from coming into the studio, because the person they heard us and said, our people do not think. Our people do not, they want somebody else to think for them. Our people are just like, give them anything and they're wrong with it.
But if you recall, Ford said something that the biggest job is thinking. That's why people pay others to think for them. So until we begin to, from what you're doing, we have to start from the cradle, which I believe that even though we have Center for Memories, I equally think the government partnership can also sustain this by extending it to the grassroots, by starting from childhood, especially primary education, primary schools, where people begin to understand their cultures and know that they are not evil, that they are not inferior. They are not human. Because if you look at it, it has also affected our own economic way of life. That if you buy clothes from Aba, neatly made in Aba, you will not see that the person is putting made in Italy there. Why do we have to do this? Because it seems like we are beginning to accept that defeat, that there's a superior knowledge or there are superior people who tells us what to do, and whatever they say is actually what which they know better. Beke Baba. So, what do you think the government or people, individuals, can actually do?
I think it goes beyond the government. I think this Anamarum Mason, one of my favorite writers, Marichi Son, will say something that if all of us begins to sweep our houses, if we begin to sweep the community from our houses, by the time we get to the village square, the entire community is clean. So it has to start with the family because now a lot of things has gone wrong with the family. Ugbu a na-abụ amụọ nwa, onwe eze na-aba nwafe afọ Igbo, azụwa Jacinta, Dovelin, na-ajụ ebee ka nke a si bido. Nke a bụ the list of the problem. The second part of the problem bụ adịrị asụsụ Igbo n'ụlọ. O nwere ga-akụzi gị asụsụ Igbo outside. Ọkwa ife oyibo ma ị chọrọ ya amụta ya. But when a child misses the opportunity to learn the basic language, it's not just about the language. It's about all of other things associated with the language. Growing up in my house, I got to learn about proverbs. It was a principle of an instrument of learning in my house. My father would make sure it doesn't make a sentence without infusing it with a proverb. Because most times the Igbo society is structured in a way that enhances deep thinking. Instead of again nwatakịrị a na-ezu oche sị onye na-eme aka wepụ aka enwe n'ofe tupu ọwa aka mmadụ. So ị ga-eche m echiche ọfụma onye ike abụọ na mamara asụ Igbo ị ga-eche m echiche ọfụma
ma ọ ka bụ ilu. All these things are
those things. So and a word for everything, and we proverbs for everything. And by the time you may not realize it until at a point when you begin to see the importance of all of those things. So it's very instructional that we start speaking our language. Because I like if we're on soccer, if we're on Hofia, if we're Alayi, if we're Abereba, all of those people. Anytime you meet if I get Kwetegodi.
Even know Yoruba.
Yoruba was talking about ndị Igbo ka ndị face.
Mana ihe a dị common among ndị Nketo na within the same Igbo community. They try to be more British, more English than the British. They try to be more Catholic than the Pope. My cousin gave birth to his kids in US. They came back last year. And the other children were like, that's why these kids use our dialect. What Igbo is Igbo. Yeah. The father could make a sentence without is or was. So it was easy for us.
No.
How many get my course the head bridge on it? But every day, I saw Iheanyi as not all correct. You know, I wonder. Then what's your sense? You send the child to go and learn other things in the school, at least in your home.
Again, that I do think that those in the diaspora makes more attempt than those at home.
Exactly.
That's an assumption.
From my experience so far, I think they make.
But for me, I faced the same situation. Igbo in my house growing up wasn't a dialect. I'm from Arochukwu, until I entered the university. And I realized that when we're gathering, and they are chicken. And I wanted to, connect with people from my place. And I found that I couldn't. And I made meeting
because you have a lot to say. You have a lot to say about your mind.
Because I found out so, but for me, that was a turning point. That was the moment I realized that there's something missing, and I need to. It was a struggle because, leaving what you've always known, and trying to imbibe a new system. And that is one problem we have with, trying to, embrace our own indigenous knowledge system, because again, we
have to unlearn.
yeah, you have to unlearn, because there's no way you're going to put in a new system if you don't unlearn the old system. So when people look at the struggles and the challenges of the unlearning, the change process, they're rather saying like
I don't want to refer to the blog like I'll see an email. On a lighter note, on a lighter note. Also, kuna Arochukwu sacrifice the praise to the deity during the white man era in this country. Let me know so that I will know if I should report you or if I should
yeah,
pray
you're
for
trying to
you.
put me in the spot, but
If I should pray for you.
it was just like something is a myth actually, and onye make obodo dị ebube.
Don't even show us that. Don't even show us how you people kill the priest.
Onye na-eme ka obodo dị ebube, but ịma nka mmọnwụ n'ọra.
But no.
So ka nnapụta
Igbo nwa Igbo, Igbo nwa afọ.
jide Fiji.
Because na nkụ dị na mba na eyere mba. Anyị bụrụ nke ndị ji bili.
Otu a ka ọ dị.
All right, we are still discussing with Iheanyi Igboko, the Executive Director for Center for Memories, located in the heart of Coal City, Enugu State, and right here, City's right broadcasting studio. And he has enlightened us so much more on the myths, the mythology, the African prowess, the local things we neglect, and how we can also come out of these misconceptions and, in a confused state. I would have just spoken one or two. Good. So
you want to put me in a state of
good. I understand. And so it's Center for Memories is at Enugu here, and you could visit to learn so much about Igbo culture. So when you want to say you want to go back to the roots, I think this is where you need to start from. So that if you're in then you know how to look for it, isn't it?
That's right.
So, and it's open to everyone, right?
Definitely.
So, is it on daily basis or there are specific days that...
Center for Memories runs on a free admission. In fact, we're one of the few museums across the world who accepts people without any payment. Even here in Enugu, I think we're the only ones in Enugu. Even with the other galleries here, we're the only ones. And it's very instructive because we want as many people who are interested, whether you are Igbo or not, to come in and experience the Igbo culture. And there are important stories within the center's exhibitions. One of the most profound exhibitions we have is the Ozemena exhibition. Across Nigeria, we haven't been bold enough, to tell our war stories. And we are not the only ones who fought wars, whether to separate or we are not. Or
whatever it is,
yeah, across the world, there has been many wars. And those countries have been bold enough to tell their stories and use that as, a benchmark or a reminder, for that thing to not happen again. But here in Nigeria, we try to, just put our heads in the sand and wait until a time when everybody will forget that the war has been fought. And that will never happen, because in a war, there are victors and there are victims. Yeah, and for that war, we were vanquished. So we need to tell ourselves the truth. We were vanquished.
But that's not what we were told. We heard there was neither victor nor vanquished.
I don't want to go to that. But why do I say we were vanquished? We were vanquished, and we need to tell ourselves the truth that we were vanquished, and we need to find a way to rebuild ourselves, our society. And again, onye meriri emeri ama nnọkọ onye meriri emeri mgbe niile. You need to pick up yourself. We haven't been able to pick up ourselves. There are so many factors for that. The country has not found time to, do a lot of things that they need to do to reunite this country. And a whole lot of us has dwelt in that past.
So you're saying that the 3R was not implemented?
It's not in my place to say, but a lot of the people who were around will tell you the same thing. So there were a lot of things that were started, but either they weren't delivered well or that it outlived its purpose, one of which is the NYSC. he's a child of the war as well.
Reintegration.
So my point is that we need to rebuild the Igbo society from a place of strength, right? For us, we try to look at the the amazing things that happened in the course of the war. Remember that the federal government at the point said it was going to be a 2 weeks police action.
Yes.
So from 2 weeks to 30 months, an onslaught, happened, and people, try to find a way to galvanize themselves, for
From nothing.
survival, to protect themselves, right? And a lot of thinking went on, a lot of
Yes.
inventions came up at the point. So you need to look at that period of time and tell ourselves, oh, we're actually a great people. How can we strengthen
Knowledge that
this
we
knowledge of us? So, but a good number of us are just saying nothing good can ever happen because the federal government will not allow that to happen. We cannot go beyond this place. That is what you tell yourself. So for me, as an Igbo person, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of the efforts put up by our mothers and our fathers in that period. How they were able to hold on in the face of everything that has happened to them, in the face of everything that were going on at the point. They were able to sustain the war. They were able to do things for themselves. They were able to create things out of that period. And then it's a challenge to me now. What is the challenge I'm facing that I can't even be able to put up something that was, promote?
So there is no excuse.
There's no excuse. So that's the point I'm trying to make. There's no excuse. So we need to rebuild Alibo. We need to rebuild ourselves. Because Onyekwe, Chiya, Ekwe.
All right. Thank you so much for coming to the studio today. This is the conversation, like I told you. And before we draw the curtain on today's episode, do you have any final words to your...
My final word is please do as much as possible to know more about yourself. Like you mentioned in our brief conversations, nobody can tell you your story better than yourself. Nobody can be youer than you.
All right, so this is City Right conversation on City Right Television, right here in Coal City. And you can also be part of this conversation by calling the numbers shown right now on your screen. You can also send your emails, and you can also be part of the sponsorship details. You can see it on the screen right now. Today, my name is Michi. We will continue to tell our stories the African way. See you some other time.